Okay, so this is the last part of our demo, the calendar. So go ahead and click on your calendar tab. And we're going to start with what's on the left-hand side here. These on left-hand sides are additional settings for your calendar. So of course, the first one, the main screen here, is just simply a place where you can go to a certain date, or you can go to tomorrow, etc. Pretty self-explanatory. By the way, this little gray bar that's in between this left-hand side screen and your actual calendar sheet here, you can click on this little middle arrow here and have it disappear. Just so that you know, you may want to do that to see a little bit more on your calendar. Okay, so the second tab here is the Setup tab. This is where you can assign colors to color code your appointment. So go ahead and click on Assign Colors, and you would just simply click on New Status, and let's say I want a color code for acupuncture. And then what you would do is just simply choose a color from your palette. You have 3 different palettes here. You would just drag your color. Let me choose another one. Just drag your color to that little rectangle here and then click Apply. And let's close our window. And then here, this button here, Start Week on Monday, if you remember, that's actually something that you've preset already under the tool wrench in your original settings. So whatever you've preset in these original settings is what AcuBase is going to open to every time that you open. Now for a given day, you can decide to change that and just click on this button here and have it being different. Same thing with the earliest time. These are all preset under the tool wrench, and those are the default settings. Next, onto the view. Pretty much everything that's here are things that you have decided under the tool wrench as well. So again, you can change it here for just a given day or a given time. Right now, we're looking at the simple daily and weekly view. When you change that to not simple, it basically gives you a timeline, both for the weekly and the daily. So that's for you to decide which one you prefer. And again, to make that permanent, you would go and make those changes under the tool wrench. Then we have the place where you can filter. You can filter by title, provider types, or by resource. And then we have the function button. Travoca.com. Travoca is a company that we're linked with. They will call your patient and remind them of their appointment. It is a voice. It's not a live person. It's a recording, I believe, just that you know. And that's a service, of course, that you'd have to pay for separately from Trigram. And then we have an auto bill multiple appointments. That's a feature that you will see as we go through the calendar, that you can actually bill. Another place that you can create an invoice from is the calendar. The auto bill multiple is a way to bill for several days at a time. And when you click on that, it's going to ask you for a date or a date range that you'd like to search from. So it may be nice at the end of the week to click on that and to do a search for the entire week, and it will search through the calendar and make sure that you've not forgotten to create an invoice for someone who was scheduled during that time period. Let's go back to the main calendar here. So right now we're on the daily simple view. What we're going to look at is the daily, the weekly, and the schedule view. So since on the simple view I do not have a timeline, I need to use the new appointment button here. So I'm going to do that. Now I only have one patient here, so it's easy. I just select that patient. But since you have a drop menu, when you click on this new appointment, you can go ahead and type the first few letters of your patient's last name, and it's going to drop down to that part of the drop menu. I'm going to assign my provider. That, if you remember, will assign an end time to your patient's appointment. So I'm going to select time. The end time is going to automatically pop up. And then I'm going to assign a resource because we're going to be looking at the schedule view, which may be a view that you'd like to schedule from. If you remember, you preset resource under the tool wrench, and so we'll look at what that looks like under the schedule screen. And this is my color coding. Here you can type a title and a description. and this is what my appointment would look like on this particular view. So on this particular view here, I can click on this $ here to go ahead and create an invoice for my patient. I'm going to show you what that looks like. It's going to say create an invoice according to their billing preferences. You click OK. That will take you to this part of the database and ask you what you want to do. You may want to skip the printing to add something else, and then you can go ahead and print your bill. If I come back to my calendar here, you'll notice that that $ has now turned red. That indicates that an invoice has been created for this date of service. Now, if you use the not simple view, the one with the timeline, you'll notice that you don't see this $. However, you can just simply click on the appointment and use the billing feature here inside of this detail screen. Let's move on to the weekly. And by the way, here, this all day section here, this is something that you can move up. And then it's not, this all day would be for events, like if you have an all day event, something that doesn't have a beginning or end time, then it would be featured at the top here. Let's move on to our weekly view. So now that we're on the more detailed view here, this is what our weekly view will look like. And let me switch it to the simple view. This is the simple weekly view. If you want, weekly will be a little bit more compacted in terms of information. So all you need to do is put your cursor on the appointment to see more of the details. And on this weekly view here, you'll notice that there is a little star next to test. Test is the description here. It's actually not the description, it's the title. And because I see a little star next to it, I know that that means that there would be also something under the description. And so if you want to have more detail, you can just simply click on the appointment. Let's move on to our schedule screen. So the schedule screen, as you see, our resources are here across the top. So this may be you may find this to be nice to be on the schedule view because, first of all, it always has a timeline. So I'll show you that if you hold down the Shift key, you can click in any of the time slot here. And of course, one of the advantages is that your time is already going to be here and your resource is already going to be here. So all you need to do really is assign a provider and assign a color if you're going to color code, and you're pretty much done. Now, any of the views in the calendar that has a timeline, you can actually drag appointments to a different time slot. So this is true of any of the views that have a timeline. I'm going to go back to a not simple view on the weekly, for example. Same thing here on my weekly. I can just drag it to a different day. Same thing on my daily. Now here I can just put that at 10 o'clock. And that is pretty much it for the calendar. The grid part here, and you're not going to use that, is just built into the calendar by the company that made the calendar, but it is just not an appropriate view for our purposes here. Now, when you'd like to print a view, there are two options. You can either just go to print, and that will give you a specific way of printing, or you can always go to your list here and then print from here, which will give you a different layout. The print, the list tab in the calendar is a place where you can do search. Now, I'm not going to be able to do that in this demo because I don't have enough data, but you can always click, remember that this fine icon is probably the best to use. You can always click on that fine icon and then do a search. In AcuBase, when you want to do a search for a date range, then what you need to do is a ... So I'm going to do 6/1/14 ... 6/2/14, and I'm going to do a search, and it's going to give me all the appointments within that time range. And you can do the search by the different fields that you see here, so you can see all the appointments during a certain time period in room 1, or under a certain provider, or a certain time, or a certain resource, etc. So this is a good way to search excuse me, for your appointments. Also, what you would want to do here when you have people scheduled, let me put this one back here so we have at least 2 appointments. Let's say I'm on my daily view here and you'd like to send out an appointment reminder. Let's say this is a couple of days ahead and you want to send them a reminder. So what you would do is go to the list view. Once you're in the list view, you'll see that there is a Forms button. Go ahead and click on the Forms button and go ahead and click your appointment confirmation. And of course, there is a text here that you'll need to edit because this is our information here. Once you've done that, always make sure that you save your changes. And then here you can click on the preview button and it will show you all the appointments for the appointment text for these people. And you can click on email form. Make sure that you type in a subject before you do that. And it's going to email your patients. Of course, you have to have an email address for these patients. Also, what you have to have is a pop-up mail set up. So on PC, you need to have Outlook set up as your default mail. On Macintosh, you need your Mac mail set up as a default mail. And then this is true for anything that's emailed out of AcuBase. And that's how you send out your email reminders. So I think this concludes this demo. And there will be, in the future, there will be additional videos on more specific areas of the database and on, more like a how-to type of video. And please feel free to email me with any questions.